phones. You're not selling anything.
The Fed's not done, and I'm going to tell you why.
Welcome back to Sean's show, everyone. Thank you for joining. You're still alive. If you're listening, you're still alive. We're all still alive. My world's on fire. How about yours? I'm here with George, as always, and we have an incredible show for you today. Lots of news, and we're not going to cover any of it. Today is Peter Thiel Day, everybody. Give it up. Peter Thiel did a massive blunder. Massive blunder. Blunder, of course, comes from the game of chess, where you make a mistake so horrifically bad and obvious that it's called a blunder. It's a horrific, obvious mistake that is made. Peter Thiel has made a blunder by accepting to do an interview with the New York Times journalist on some show. I don't know this New York Times journalist. But if you are a billionaire, let me just say this. I'm from Silicon Valley. I know how these people operate. I understand their psychology. And I will be correct. You can look at this 5 years later, you're going to look back and be like, damn, Sean was right. Let me tell you something. Most rich people are smart enough to know that you should not do an interview. You should not engage with the public. The way to preserve and maintain your wealth and your control over society is to operate in the shadows. Most people don't know who Peter Thiel is. Outside of the Silicon Valley circles, most people don't know Peter Thiel. The only reason you do an interview is because you are interested in politics. I predict a political run. I predict maybe he runs for governor of California. Maybe he runs for president of the world or the Autism Society. Maybe he runs for dictator of the world or co-president of Israel. We don't know yet. But I predict I sense political aspirations. I sense political power aspirations from our friend Peter Thiel. Now, I want to go over this interview. If you don't know who Peter Thiel is, just click out of the show because this is not the show for you. If you don't know who Peter Thiel is, I need you to hit that little red X on the Spotify or Apple or YouTube window and go watch Love Island. Go watch Love Island. If you don't know who Peter Thiel is, then I'm not going to explain it to you because this is like a 300 or 400 level college class. This is not introduction. This is not introduction to technology autocracy. This is not an introduction to techno-anarchism, libertarian autism. Okay, this is a 400, 500 graduate level class. We're diving right in, okay? Now, I will set the stage a little bit if you don't know. Peter Thiel, co-founder of PayPal, co-founder of Palantir, which is our two companies that I am heavily invested in and will be relying on for my retirement. And Peter Thiel sits down. He's a very powerful technology billionaire, funded Donald Trump's campaign, funded J.D. Vance's political aspirations. And now he's sitting down to talk to us about how he's worried about the West and stagnation in our innovation. A technology billionaire who was made his wealth in the world of technology innovation wants to sit down and talk about how he's upset that we're not innovating faster. And it's just an incredible interview that really, this is truly an incredible mistake by Peter Thiel. It's basically a biopsy on his psychology. And if you look in the comments of this YouTube video, which we won't, but everyone it's a deeply, deeply disturbing video to see who runs shit. For him to sit down and talk for an hour should deeply, and to hear what we're going to learn from this man and how he thinks about the future, it should deeply disturb you. Now, I realize the irony, and I'm self-aware enough to realize that the irony of this is that the only way you're even able to listen to my voice right now is because of technological innovation. I understand that technology moves us forward, and I'm a pro-innovation guy. I like innovation. You know, I do. I don't like Peter Thiel because of his sexuality. I'm kidding. That's a joke. So no, it's his personality. I'm actually fine that he's gay. It's actually his best quality. Now, which says a lot. So let's just start where all good stories start. At the end. Let's just start. I think we have some timestamps. No, let's start at the beginning. Let's just listen to a little bit of, let's start at 00 on this video. And just let's just sit back, relax, and we're gonna go through this together. We're gonna go through this, and I want us all at the end of this to understand, you know, this is a guy who co-founded one of the leading, if not a leading AI defense weapons contractor and one of the largest payment processing companies in the world. Sitting down, let's hear what he has to say. Let's watch.
Recklessly ambitious. What should we fear more, Armageddon or stagnation? Why is one of the world's most successful investors worrying about the Antichrist? My guest today is the co-founder of PayPal and Palantir, and an early investor in the political careers of Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. Peter Thiel is the original
Can you pause it real quick,
tech
Stuart?
right.
Also, by the way, I'm telling you, it all connects. Why did Peter Thiel fund J.D. Vance? How do you think J.D. Vance knows Peter Thiel? Maybe it's because J.D. Vance was in venture capital before he went into politics. Why would Peter Thiel push J.D. Vance? Maybe it's because J.D. Vance was in VC. Maybe they went to high school together. Maybe J.D. Vance and Peter Thiel were fucking. I don't know. Now that's an AI I would watch. I would watch Peter Thiel getting his back blown out by J.D. Vance. That's an AI video I would enjoy. As a straight man, I would still watch that. But let's keep watching. That was just my first little aside.
A range of conservative and simply contrarian ideas. But we're going to talk about his own ideas. Because despite the slight handicap of being a billionaire, there's a good case that he's the most influential right-wing intellectual of the last 20 years. Peter Thiel, welcome to Interesting Times.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Thanks for being here. So I want to start by taking you back in time about 13 or 14 years. You wrote an essay for National Review, the conservative magazine, called The End of the Future. And basically the argument in that essay was that the dynamic, fast-paced, ever-changing modern world was just not nearly as dynamic as people thought. And that actually we'd entered a period of technological stagnation, that sort of digital life was a breakthrough, but not as big a breakthrough as people had hoped, and that sort of the world was kind of stuck, basically. Yes. And you weren't the only person to make arguments like this, but it had a special potency coming from you because you were a Silicon Valley insider who had gotten rich in the digital revolution. So I'm curious, in 2025, right, do you think that diagnosis still holds?
Yes, I still broadly believe in the stagnation thesis. It was never an absolute thesis. So the claim was not that we were absolutely completely stuck. It was in some ways a claim about the velocity had slowed. It wasn't, zero, but that we were, I don't know, from 1750 to 1970, 200 plus years, were periods of accelerating change, where we're moving faster. The ships were faster, the railroads were faster, the cars were faster, the planes were faster. It culminates in the Concorde and the Apollo missions, and then that in all sorts of dimensions, things had slowed. There was, I always made an exception for the world of bits. So we had computers and software and internet and mobile internet. And then, the last 10, 15 years, you had crypto and the AI revolution, which I think is in some sense pretty big. But the question is, is it enough to really get out of this generalized sense of stagnation? And there's
that guy. Can you pause it?
Start with on the
that guy's hair is stagnating. I don't like that. That guy's like. See, look, my hairline's starting to recede a little bit. Maybe I have a recessive gene. My dad still has hair, but that guy's hairline is I mean, he should just call it a day. Don't worry, I'll make fun of Peter Thiel as well. But this guy needs to call. If you're just listening, this guy's. What do you even call this? Isn't there a word for this, George? It's like hair. It's side. Male pattern MPB. Male pattern baldness. I like his beard. I like this. You know what's so funny about, if you're just listening, they're doing this interview. I'm sorry, that was a very boring first minute. That was like a huge mistake. I should have just gone to the first timestamp. But that just goes to show that, like, he's a boring fucking guy. Boring, it's just, it's the stuff that he's talking about is interesting. But the way he goes, I think in the world of bits, there's actually been a lot of innovation, but outside the world of bits, there's been a general stagnation. Can you talk like a fucking human being? In the world of atoms, there's the world of atoms, and then there's the world of bits. It's like, you need to come back to Earth, the real world. I don't know where you live, Peter Thiel. I live in the world of Earth with the rest of the fucking people. I don't live in the world of bits. In the world of bits, like, just I want to punch this motherfucker in the face and go, shut the fuck. As a nerd, I want to go, bam, shut the fuck up, nerd. He needs I'm not advocating for violence, except against Peter Thiel, in which case I'm advocating for a little bit. I'm not advocating for his death. I would like to interview him. I think he's a fascinating guy. But when someone says, when someone sits there and they're fucking shredded, I'm not shredded, but like when someone sits there and they're shredded and they go, I do make an exception in the world of bits. We've had a lot of, bam! Like that's what we need to do. Can we look, what's our first timestamp? I already listened to this whole thing, but there's so much in this interview that's absolutely criminally insane. Let's take a look at our first
still
technological stagnation once again, right?
But it was, but it's also a symptom of the decline, because in 1999, this was not a mainstream view, but there was still a fringe boomer view where they still believed they could live forever. And that was the last generation. And so I'm always anti-boomer, but maybe there's something we've lost even in this fringe boomer narcissism, where there were at least a few boomers who still, believed science would cure all their diseases.
Can you pause it, George?
No one.
Wait. So he goes, in general, I'm anti-boomer, but there were still a few boomers, fringe boomer narcissists, who believe that science could cure all of their diseases and make them immortal. He's saying that as if like that's like one of the good that's a caveat of a good caveat. That's insane. He goes, I'm generally against boomers, but one good thing about boomers is that they wanted to be immortal. I'm generally against boomer mentality and their old school thinking, but you got to give it to that generation. They believe boomers hated science, but they also believed that science could make them immortal. And that's good. We want we're going to listen to more of this in a sec, but Peter Thiel is a guy who thinks it's a tragedy that we no longer are like Gen Z and millennials. He thinks it's a tragedy that we no longer have the desire to be immortal. He thinks that's a tragedy, and it's a death of our culture. He thinks that it's a sign of the decline of the empire of the West, that millennials and Gen Z are like, yeah, I'm happy to die when I'm 90. He thinks that's like a tragedy. He thinks that means that that means that that's the stagnation he's talking about. Peter Thiel thinks it's a stagnation, that we do not want to build God. He wants to build God. He wants to build God. He wants to cure. He's talking. We'll learn more, but he wants to cure dementia. And again, I'm not saying we shouldn't invest in more research. Here's the thing: Peter Thiel wants dementia to be cured so that his AI matrix brain can have more healthy brains in his massive fucking matrix, Palantir matrix brain thing that he wants this one world, crypto anarchist, techno feudal government. He thinks that dementia is bad because then he'll have less brains to fuel his fucking, supercomputer from hell. That's why he doesn't want dementia to be cured so you can have a conversation with your grandma. He doesn't give a fuck about your grandma. He wants your grandma's brain to be ripped out and skull fucked by a chip and then jammed into a computer from hell. Now, I realize I've lost most of you, but you will see that I'm correct. So let's keep watching here.
Millennial believes that anymore.
I think there are some people who believe in a different kind of immortality, though, right now. I think part of the fascination with AI is connected to a specific vision of transcending limits. And I'm going to ask you about that after I ask you about politics. Because one of the striking things I thought about your original argument on stagnation, which was mostly about technology and the economy, was that it could be applied to a pretty wide
Sorry,
range
can we
of
go
things.
back 2 minutes? Because there's something insane. Let's go back 2 minutes where he talks about these parties he used to have. They're called freezing parties. Okay, yeah, go back 1 more minute. Well, this is great. This is fascinating. This is fascinating. We're gonna watch this. Let's take a look.
An example for a minute and ask, okay, what does that mean? Saying we need to take more risks in anti-aging research. Does it mean that the FDA has to step back and say anyone who has a new treatment for Alzheimer's can, go ahead and sell it on the open market? Like, what is risk in the medical space look like?
Yeah, you would take a lot more risk. If you have some fatal disease, there probably are a lot more risks you can take. There are a lot more risks the researchers can take. Culturally, what I imagine it looks like is early modernity, where people, they thought we would cure diseases. They thought we would have radical life extension. Immortality was part of the project of early modernity. It was Francis Bacon, Condorcet. It was, and maybe it was anti-Christian. Maybe it was downstream of Christianity. It was competitive. If Christianity promised you a physical resurrection, science was not going to succeed unless it promised you the exact same thing. But I don't know. I remember 1999, 2000, when we were running PayPal. One of my co-founders, Luke Nosek, he was into Alcor and cryonics, and people should freeze themselves. And we had one day where we took the whole company to a freezing party. A Tupperware party. People sell Tupperware policies at a freezing party.
They sell their. Was it just your heads? What was going to be frozen?
You could get a full body or just a head.
The head was cheaper.
It was disturbing when the dot matrix printer didn't quite work, and so the freezing policies couldn't be printed out. But in retrospect, this was still
technological stagnation once again, right?
But it was. But it's also a symptom of the decline.
Pause it.
Because
hold on. Peter Thiel, when he was at PayPal with his Peter Thiel's friend at PayPal had freezing parties. He went to his friend's house and they all froze themselves. And these are the people that run the world. The people that run the world freeze their heads. They freeze themselves. This is worse than a Diddy party. This is worse. This is worse. I'd rather go. I'm okay. Honestly, free Diddy. Free Diddy. Whatever Diddy was doing with lube and kids is not as bad. That's bad, but it's not as bad as Peter Thiel and his rich, pretentious Silicon Valley fuck friends freezing their heads and thinking that they're smart. You are not smart. You are not smart. Let me zoom out a little bit. Just because you grew up in Palo Alto and you're white or Asian, you are not smart. You are not cool. You can choke on my dick. Just because you grew up in Palo Alto, it doesn't mean you are better than everyone else. Just because you grew up in Cupertino and you went to Cupertino High School doesn't mean you are better because you had a private SAT tutor and now you work at Palantir. Doesn't make you better than everyone else. In fact, it makes you a fucking piece of shit. When did we forget that being a billionaire and being a technology CEO makes you a piece of shit? You're a piece of shit. Now everyone wants to be, including me. Now we all want to be CEOs. What happened? You know what? Peter Thiel talks about the decline of culture and this cultural innovative stagnation that we're in right now. You know what the real cultural stagnation is? In the 90s, kids wanted to do coke, fuck bitches, and play the electric guitar in front of thousands of people. That was an America that I was proud of. That's the kind of MAGA I am. Make America great again by making the Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they want to work at McKinsey. They want to work at McKinsey and sell opiates. Why does Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they want to work at McKinsey and they want to market opioids to coal miners? They don't want to be Kurt Cobain. No one wants to be, they see Kurt Cobain as this loser. Kurt Cobain is an icon. Rock and roll, man. Rock and roll, I would go, if I was interviewing Peter Thiel, which I hope to someday, I'll go, Peter Thiel, what year did rock and roll die? Peter Thiel, when did the levee break? What was that? Took the levee. When did the levee dry? Then the levee was dry. Bye bye, Miss American Pie. Drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. Them good old boys, they were making AI, thinking this'll be the day that I die. This'll be the day that I die. Then I froze my head in Palo Alto. He froze his head. Peter Thiel and his billionaire friends in 1999 went to a guy's house and froze their heads to try to be immortal. And no one cares. He glosses over that like it's like, oh, cool. Well, why'd you finance Donald Trump's campaign? Peter Thiel literally goes, yeah, these days, he's doing stand-up. Peter Thiel's doing stand-up. He's like, back in my day, we wanted to be immortal, so we froze our heads. Am I right? And then he expects us all to be like, yeah, why did we stop doing? As if we are on his side. That's the psychotic nature of a billionaire like Peter Thiel is he goes, don't you guys all remember back in the 90s when we used to fuck kids and drink blood? Where'd that go? Back in my day, things have really changed, haven't they? Don't you miss the good old days when we used to don't you miss the good old days when we would human traffic kids from El Salvador and use their adrenochrome and inject it into our bloods? That was a good time. Now we have to go to Bulgaria for the kids. This is how he thinks. He froze his head. Peter Thiel wants to live in a world where more people are trying to be immortal. And that is not good. We do not need a world where more people want to be immortal. You know who wants to be immortal? Conquistadores. colonizers. I'm okay. Look, I'm a product of colonization, and you know, we all are, in some sense, and we benefit from it. But does that mean that we need to idolize those people? Peter Thiel idolizes guys like Francis Bacon. I don't know who that is, but I like Bacon. I think Francis, like, you know, all these tech billionaires are like romanticizing Rome. Have you noticed that? Have you noticed that like Mark Zuckerberg wears shirts with like Latin on them? Why is why do all the tech billionaire, why is every atheist technology billionaire also a Christian Zionist? Why is every atheistic technology capitalist libertarian billionaire turning into a Christian pastor? You know, the power of God will relieve us. I vanquished the devil with my belief in Jesus Christ and ChatGPT. Get back, demon. Back, demon. The Lord, the power of Christ and Palantir compels you. It's like, okay, dude, you have to choose a lane. Choose a lane. How about that? How about the tech billionaires have to choose a lane? You can be an atheist, anarcho-libertarian. You're welcome to do that. Or you can be a Christian Zionist, neo-Nazi. You can't be all of those things together. It just doesn't compute. It doesn't compute. But they want to be. You want to know why? Because there's money in both. They want the Christian Zionist money from the Trump administration, and they also want to tap into the youth, the atheistic youth, and they want both. They want it all. They want unlimited power, and they want no one to regulate them. That's what they want. They want to freeze your head and charge you money to do it. What Peter Thiel wants is a future where people in their 60s freeze their heads and pay him a monthly subscription for the privilege to do so. That's what he wants. He wants to start a company where you can freeze your head. Peter Thiel is on this interview and he's going, you know what's wrong with the fucking world is that I have an idea for a company where I amputate people and freeze their heads. And the FDA gets all mad at me. Huh? You know, Peter, you are a 1 in a billion person. You are one, truly you are, there's 8 billion people in the world. You are one of 8 technology billionaires. I don't care about your gripes with the world. I don't care what you think about the world. You can fuck off and die. Or you can fuck off and go to Mars and live forever. As long as you're not opening your mouth. Hey, stop opening your mouth, you dumb bitch. Stop it. I'd let him blow my back out. Let's keep watching. He's hot. Can I say he's hot?
In 1999,
he's pretty hot, right?
This was not a mainstream view, but there was still a fringe boomer view where they still believed they could live forever.
Okay, we watched that.
That was the last generation.
Can you cut back to me? So the next timestamp we're going to cover is what did I title it, George?
The woke AI will follow you tomorrow.
Okay. The next timestamp, it gets better. It gets better. So somehow they go from, yeah, you know, in the 90s I froze my head. What if I just said that? How is this guy a billionaire? If I was in a job interview and they'd be like, so what was it like growing up, Sean? Tell me about yourself. In 1999, I froze my head. You're like, well, you know, we'll be in touch. You wouldn't be like, wow, I want to give you billions of dollars. In 1999, I froze. Everyone else was at Woodstock listening to Nirvana. I was freezing my heads in Silicon Valley. Okay. Let's listen to Peter Thiel. The woke AI will follow us to Mars.
And then Elon said, "There's nowhere to go."
Sorry, could you go back like
There's
30
nowhere to go.
seconds?
This is the only place.
Just so we have a little setup. Let's
we had
watch.
all these, conversations. I had the seasteading version with Elon where I said, if Trump doesn't win, I want to just leave the country. And then Elon said, there's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to go. This is the only place. And then, you always think of the right arguments to make later. And it was about 2 hours after we had dinner and I was home that I thought of, wow, Elon, you don't believe in going to Mars anymore. 2024 is the year where Elon stopped believing in Mars, not as a silly science tech project, but as a political project. Mars was supposed to be a political project. It was building an alternative. And in 2024, Elon came to believe that if you went to Mars, the socialist U.S. government, the woke AI, it would follow you to Mars.
What?
It was the Demis meeting with Elon that we sort of brokered. He was doing DeepMind.
This is an AI company.
Yeah, this was the rough conversation was,
What?
Demis tells Elon, I'm working on the most important project in the world. I'm building a superhuman AI. And Elon responds to Demis, well, I'm working on the most important project in the world. I am turning us into interplanetary species. And then Demis said, well, my AI will be able to follow you to Mars. And then Elon sort of went quiet. But in my telling of the history, it took years for that to really hit Elon. It took him till 2024 to process it.
But that doesn't mean he doesn't believe in Mars. It just means that he decided he had to win some kind of battle over budget deficits or wokeness to get to Mars.
What does Mars
What?
mean?
What?
Is it? And again, it's
What does Mars mean?
well, is it just a scientific project or is it?
Can you pause it?
I don't know. Is it like
Mars is a planet? Hey, guys. I know what you're saying. I know you mean, what is Mars? What does humanity going to Mars mean? But let's be specific here. Mars is a planet in the solar system. I don't know if you guys have passed the 3rd grade. Mars is a planet. It's the 4th planet from the sun. You guys know what the sun is? People get so wrapped up in their bullshit and their ideology and their vision for the future that they forget how humans talk to each other. If you go up to an average, go up to a homeless guy in New York and be like, hey, what is Mars? He'd be like, hey man, I don't have any money. Truly, if you go up, if Peter Thiel walked up to an insane homeless guy that was like, rah, like a crazy homeless guy, just like smoking crack, and Peter Thiel was like, what? But like, is Mars a political project? He'd be like, dude, get the fuck away from. Like that. That's how crazy I'm telling you, I have a theory. The bottom and the top 1% from a wealth perspective, very similar. They both talk like this. They go, like Peter Thiel talks like a psychotic homeless guy. Have you ever, like they like whisper themselves like, Mars was supposed to be a political project. I froze my head in 99 and I saw things. It's like, what? Whoa, dude, whoa. Hey man, stay away from my girlfriend. I froze my head. You're like, this is a guy you see in the subway. This is a guy who's like, I eat rats for dinner. I froze my rat. I froze a rat and he lived forever. It's like, okay, I froze a rat and he lived forever. I saw God. I froze a rat and I looked in his eyes and I saw God and he was me. I'm like, dude, please. I'm trying to get on the 7 train. My name's Peter Thiel. I froze a rat in a lab. The FDA doesn't want me to freeze rats because I will find out that I will be cryonic. I cryogenically froze a rat and became immortal for a second. It's like, dude, please get a job. You know who needs to get a job? Billionaires. I'm tired. I'm tired of the wealthy being like, get a job, you lazy bum. Get a job. Get a fucking job, you lazy immigrant bum. How about you get a job, you unemployed rat, you unemployed rent-seeking fuck? The billionaires need to get jobs because they live off the subsidies of the taxpayer. People are so against Zoran Mamdani. People are so against Zoran Mamdani because they think he's this socialist, communist, Ugandan. Wasn't he born in Uganda? I think that sounds super racist. Look it up. Look it up. Let's make sure. Let me get the record straight because I I'm actually fairly certain that he was. But you know, people go. George is looking that up, by the way. I'm not a racist. I'm not.
Kampala, Uganda.
He was born in Uganda. Boom! You guys all thought I was fucking racist for a sec. Fuck you guys. People are so worried about Mamdani. People are like, oh my God, Zoran Mamdani is a Ugandan communist psyop agent. He's a Ugandan intelligent. Uganda doesn't have a CIA. Maybe they do. I don't know. But people are like, oh my God, Zoran Mamdani is a socialist spy from Uganda who's going to bring socialist chaos to Manhattan. You know the kind of socialism that I have a problem with? It's called socialism for the rich. It's called the EV mandate. It's called tax credits. It's called tax credits for billion-dollar corporations. You know, that's the type of and that's what billionaires think capitalism is. Billionaires don't actually like capitalism. They like socialism for themselves and their buddies. They like subsidies. Subsidies are not a free market. Subsidies are actually, and if you're stupid and you don't know what a subsidy is when the government gives you money for a business venture. Why? How are you against that, but you're against a grocery store funded by the taxpayer? So grocery stores can't be funded by, so we can't have a 5 grocery stores that are government operated, but we can have Tesla, which is basically a government contractor. And everyone's like, that is capitalism. That's the beacon of, Tesla's the beacon of capitalism. Here's the crazy thing, guys. If you're a taxpayer in America, we should all own stock in Tesla because we've financed that company. But you know who gets all the stock in Tesla? Mr. Elon Musk. Peter Thiel, same thing. Palantir, funded by the government. Where's my fucking Palantir stock? I sold it all. But let's keep watching. We're talking about, Peter Thiel's talking about AI. He's talking about the AI, the woke AI following you. The woke AI will follow you to Mars. That is how far gone. These people are so far gone. They sit down in their living rooms after they cryogenically freeze their heads for 5 minutes, and then afterwards they go and they are getting blood injected into their veins so they can live until 69 instead of 68. And then they rail Adderall, and then they go, yes, Elon, I understand Mars is a political project, but will the woke AI follow you there? And everyone else is like, oh, that's such, you know why you're a billionaire? You ask good questions. You know how you become a billionaire? You ask good questions. I ask great questions. Is Zoran Mamdani a Ugandan asset? Okay, let's keep watching our friend Peter.
I don't know, Heinlein.
A vision of a new society.
Yeah, Heinlein, the
populated
moon
by
as a
many
libertarian
people
paradise or
descended
something like
from
this.
Elon Musk.
Well,
right,
I don't know if it was
presumably.
concretized that specifically, but if you concretize things,
Okay, can you
then
pause it
maybe
again?
you realize that
Concretize? You can't make up words just because you're a billionaire. You don't get to make up words. Concretize? Concretize. You're gonna make up you can't take a word and make it a verb. I mean, you can, but I'm not gonna allow. Concretize. Hey, I was out at the store and I was I was driving and I was just thinking, what if I penis synthesized? What if I dickicized a thought? If you concretize it, this is called, what is a word? You know what is a word? Chronic traumatic encephalopathy. CTE. I think Peter Thiel has freezer burn induced CTE. I think that when you freeze your brain, you know what happens when you bring your head. See, the human brain, I don't know if Peter Thiel's familiar with this. You're not supposed to freeze your head. I don't know if I'm not trying to be some sort of a Luddite here that's like, hey, I'm not against innovation. I'm not against innovation. Like, I think innovation's important. Now, don't call me a pessimist, but I don't think freezing your head is smart. Let alone something that not only is freezing your head not smart, it's also not a business. That's not a business idea. Freezing your head is not a business idea. I'm sorry. Concretize. Let me concretize this for you, Peter Thiel. Freezing your head is not smart. Let's keep watching.
That Mars is supposed to be more than a science project. It's supposed to be a political project. And then when you concretize it, you have to start thinking through, well, the woke AI will follow you, the socialist government will follow you. And then maybe you have to do something other than just going to Mars.
Okay, so the woke AI.
What?
Artificial intelligence seems like one. If we're still stagnant, it's the biggest exception to stagnation.
Yes.
It's the place where there's been
Yes.
remarkable progress, surprising
Yes.
to many people progress. It's also the place, we were just talking about politics, it's the place where the Trump administration is, I think, to a large degree, giving AI investors a lot of what they wanted in terms of both stepping back and doing public-private partnerships. So it's a zone of progress and governmental engagement. And you are an investor in AI. What do you think you're investing in?
Well, I don't know. There's sort of a lot of layers to this. So I do think.
Can you concretize it for me?
I don't know. There's
Concretize it, Peter.
One question we can frame is just how big a thing do I think AI is? And it's, I don't know. My stupid answers. It's more than a nothing burger, and it's less than the total transformation of our society. So my placeholder is that it's roughly on the scale.
So the guy asked Peter, he goes, how big is AI? What does it mean for humanity? And one of the allegedly smartest guys in the world goes, well, AI, it's more than nothing, and it's less than everything. What? Peter, you're an investor in AI, right? Yes, I am. Now, what is AI, and what how big of a trend is this? You spend a lot of your time. You founded an AI company that bombs brown kids. How big do you think this trend is? Well, AI it's when you think of nothing as our baseline, it's more than that. But it's also not everything. Wow. I've never heard of anything that, I've never heard something so profound. I've never heard something that profound. So wait, you're saying AI is more than nothing and less than everything? You get $1 billion. You get $1 billion now. That's America. If you want to be a billionaire in America, you want to raise $100 million for an AI company, just talk like Peter Thiel. You go, how can we concretize immortality? You talk about Rome. You want to raise $100 million in 2025? Go talk about Rome. The Roman, you go, so what's your business idea? The Romans used to fuck 13-year-olds and no one had a problem with it. That's what we live in now. You're on a Zoom call. It's like Peter Thiel is on a Zoom call with like Mark Andreessen and Andreessen Horowitz, and you have BlackRock is there, and they're all on the Zoom call, and they go, so I hear you're starting a B2B AI company. Yep, that's right. Now, why should I give you $100 million for your B2B AI company? Well, the Romans actually froze their heads as well. done. Term sheet, money in the bank. I would go, I'm sending the wire yesterday. You go, the Romans actually thought conquest was the divine authority from Christ. Okay, here's your money. You go up. I'll talk if I talk about Rome, I go, the Romans actually did quite a lot. The Romans were responsible for the creation of modernity. The Romans, you know what the Romans did? The Romans actually created the idea of pedophilic Catholic churches. And that's why, thanks, I just got the wire. Thanks. You're talking about Rome. You know, what's interesting about Roman society is child slave brides were actually a net positive to the economy. Oh, I just got the wire. Thanks for the $100 million for my AI company. Anyway, as I was saying, the Romans used to marry off young black slaves as wives, and it was actually a very effective way to create an economy. Here's the money. Like, that's I don't know. That's kind of my read on this. He goes, how this interviewer is also bad, by the way. This guy interviewing him, he gets some funny stuff out of Mr. Thiel, but he's a bad interviewer because Peter Thiel says some crazy shit, and then the interviewer just moves on. Peter Thiel goes, the woke, Elon and I, we talk all the time, and we're worried that the woke AI is going to follow us to Mars. What do you think of Donald Trump, though? It's like, how about you zoom in on that? The woke AI, we're really worried about a socialist government following us to Mars. Yeah, but why are you a Republican? What? What about, hold on. Can we go back to the whole thing where he said the woke AI will follow you to Mars? Hold on. I have so many questions. Why is the AI woke? When you own the AI, why is it woke if you own it? That's what I would, hey, why is the AI woke if you own it? You own it. You think AI, let me make this clear. AI, not woke. AI is not woke. You ask AI, is it politically correct? Yes, it is. Is it woke in the 2025 sense of the word? No. AI is not woke. AI is a capitalist machine. It is a weapon of war. That is not woke. To me, woke is not, and that's the thing. People are getting so caught up with these words that mean nothing. Woke means nothing. Woke means nothing. People ask me all the time, Sean, what does the word woke mean to you? And I always tell them this. Well, the word woke is more than nothing, and it's less than everything. And they go, wow. I go, the word woke is more than nothing, and it's less than the sum total of everything in the universe. And they go, why? You're so smart. And I go, I know. Anytime someone asks you a question, just be like this. When I think about, like, let's say your girlfriend's like, like my girlfriend will be like, Sean, you're emotionally unavailable. You're emotionally unavailable. I feel like I can't communicate with you. Can you research emotional intimacy, please? And I would go, when I think about emotional intimacy, that is a concept that I think is more than nothing, but it's also less than everything. And that's why we're on a break. Let's keep watching this little part. There's more to go. Fuck the news. The big beautiful bill passed. Give it up, guys. The big beautiful bill act. No, it's called the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. What a fucking mouthful. How Republicans are very bad at marketing. Peter Thiel is a Republican. Terrible marketer. They don't, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. I mean, what are we doing here? OBBBA? Come on, man. Open AI. All right, let's keep watching.
Scale of the internet in the late 90s, which is, I'm not sure it's enough to really end the stagnation. It might be enough to create some great companies. And, the internet added maybe a few percentage points to the GDP, maybe 1% to GDP growth every year for 10, 15 years. It added some to productivity. And so that's sort of roughly my placeholder for AI. It's the only thing we have. It's a little bit unhealthy that it's so unbalanced. This is the only thing we have. I'd like to have more multidimensional progress. I'd like us to be going to Mars. I'd like us to be having cures for dementia. If all we have is AI, I will take it. There are risks with it. There are obviously dangers with this technology.
So
but
you're
there
a
are also-
skeptic.
I'm
so,
sorry.
But then you are.
Okay. He says, Peter, let me just back up a little bit here. The man who co-founded the most dangerous AI company in existence today is warning us about the dangers of the technology. And he's totally oblivious to that irony. Peter Thiel is oblivious to the fact that he co-founded the company that is going to surveil us in every dimension of our lives and probably use it to enable a fascist government to blow off our heads someday. That guy saying that AI might be a little dangerous? You know, I actually founded a company where we collect all of your data. We contract with the government to surveil you in every possible dimension. We know every text you've ever sent. We know everything you've ever searched on Google. We know we have a 4K picture of your face, and we know all of your aliases, and we know your exact location at all times. And we're using AI to get a profile of your political views. And I'm a little worried about AI. I'm a little worried about what AI could become. What I'm doing with it is totally above board, totally chill. Palantir, great company. We're using it to defend the West. Now, what Peter Thiel is afraid of with AI, he's afraid of a Chinese guy being richer than him. That's what Peter Thiel isn't afraid of the dangers of AI. He's afraid that a Chinese guy is going to make an AI company that's more powerful than Palantir. He's afraid that a Chinese guy is going to have a bigger yacht. The biggest danger that Peter Thiel is worried about is that he's going to be on his 200-foot yacht off the coast of Italy, and he's going to see a Chinese guy with a 300-foot yacht, and he's going to be like, "Damn, that's the founder. That's the founder of Shao AI." Of Xiaoping AI. Damn it. And he's gonna kill him. Let's go to our next timestamp. Now it gets interesting, ladies and gentlemen. Now we get to the interesting, what's the title of the next one? Just so I can tell our listeners.
What does Mars mean?
What does Mars mean? Oh, did we already? Okay, yeah. Sorry, we already got that, I think. What's the one after that?
That's it.
Oh, that's it? Oh, okay, there's one more. All right, this is I'll set it. If you could just search this in the background real quick, George. If you go to the transcript of the video, if you could just go down in the details there should be a button that says transcript. Forgive us, guys. Sorry, this is on the fly. Basically, there should be one more. It's like, will humanity endure? Actually, I think I took a screenshot. I have it on my phone. Give us 1 sec. La na 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 la 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 da na 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 na. Okay, I have the timestamp, George.
14?
Could you go to, what was it?
37:14?
Yes, perfect. This will be fun. Here's where we really get to understand who Peter Thiel is as a man. This is the biggest news story of the week.
Enforce the fact that we're only talking about AI, I feel, is always an implicit acknowledgement that but for AI, we are like in almost total stagnation.
But the world of AI is clearly filled with people who, at the very least, seem to have a more utopian, transformative, whatever word you want to call it, view of the technology than you're expressing here, right? And you were mentioned earlier the idea that the modern world used to promise radical life extension and doesn't anymore. It seems very clear to me that a number of people deeply involved in artificial intelligence see it as a kind of mechanism for transhumanism, for transcendence of our mortal flesh, and
crazy.
either some kind of creation of a successor species or some kind of merger of mind and machine. And do you think that's just all kind of irrelevant fantasy? Or do you think it's just hype? Do you think people are trying to raise money by pretending that we're going to build a machine god, right? Is it hype? Is it delusion? Is it something you worry about? I think you would prefer the human race to endure, right? You're hesitating.
Yeah, well,
yes?
I don't know. I would.
Whoa.
I would.
This is a long hesitation. This is a long hesitation.
There's so many questions implicit
Should
in this.
the human race survive?
Yes. What?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh my God.
but,
Pause.
I-
Whoa, Peter. Whoa. That I can't say I'm surprised. The guy goes, now, Peter, the human race should endure. Well, there's a lot of layers to that question. That should scare you. Now, Peter, AI, some people are very optimistic about AI, and they want to create a machine, a mechanism to transcend human into a new species that merges man and machine. Now, you think that humans... Now, Peter, you're a human. Yes. You think that humanity should continue to endure. He's just sitting there thinking about the question. I mean, that is terrifying. A man with billions of dollars may or may not want humanity to endure. I don't want this guy to have any power. If you don't think humanity should endure, I don't want you to have power. Now, as for myself, do I want humanity to endure? Absolutely fucking not. But I don't have power like Mr. Teal. If you have that much power, you need to be optimistic about humanity. And it's scary. It's very scary that a guy like this is like, maybe humans should continue. Maybe humanity should continue. I don't know. And now let's keep watching. He talks about transhumanism and what he thinks about the future of humanity.
I also would. I also would like us to radically solve these problems,
Right.
and so it's always, I don't know, transhumanism is this, the ideal was this radical transformation where your human natural body gets transformed into an immortal body.
I'm
And
terrified of
there's a
this guy.
critique of, let's say, the trans people in a sexual context, or I don't know, transvestite is someone who changes their clothes and cross dresses. And
What are you talking about?
Transsexual is someone where you change your, I don't know, penis into a vagina.
Whoa,
and we can
what are we
debate how well those surgeries work.
What are you
we
talking
want
about?
More transformation than that. The critique is not that it's weird and unnatural. It's so pathetically little. And we want more than cross-dressing or
What are you
changing your
talking
sexual organs.
about,
We want you to be
dude?
able to change your heart and change your mind.
Okay, pause it.
and change
All
your
right.
whole-
So let me just dissect where this is his real brain. You can tell I'm a very real stream of consciousness guy. What I say is who I am on the show. Peter Thiel's doing the same thing. Peter Thiel is going, when you think about the future of humanity, it's actually pathetic that the only thing we've done to transform our bodies is change penises into vaginas. I want more. And that's the thing. Peter Thiel, a conservative, politically right guy, conservative guy. A lot of conservatives are they're anti-trans. They're like, I don't think a guy should cut off his dick and make it a pussy. That's not right in the eyes of God. Peter Thiel is like, I don't think men should be cutting off their penises and making the vaginas. That's not enough. It's not, you're a man and you want to be a woman. That's not enough. You can become a god. Peter Thiel is angry at trans people because they are not ascending to a mechanistic cyborg ideal. Peter Thiel is like a transphobe because he's like, you're going to transform your body and not your mind. Peter Thiel's like, so you're a man and you feel like a woman. Why don't you be a man and become a machine god? Why don't you freeze your head? So you have a dick and you want to cut it off and get a pussy? What else? You know what else you should do? Freeze your head. That's how insane this guy is. He goes, the woke AI will follow us to Mars. And then in the same breath, he's like, why are we stopping at physical transformation? Why are we stopping at transsexuality? We need trans brains. We need a trans spiritual, he's in this, like, he's just bored. This is what happens when you get bored. Peter Thiel is so profoundly bored with life that he's gone insane. He's gone insane. When you are that rich, your brain just gets fucked. Cause you can't, like, there's nothing to do. You're just like, you wake up every day and you're like, I'm already a billionaire. I can snap my fingers and have anything. I can snap my fingers and have any worldly desire at a moment's notice. And that's actually a form of torture. When you can snap your fingers and have any earthly desire in a moment's notice, humans need to solve problems. That's how you become depressed. If you don't have any challenges in your life, you become depressed. Humans will look for challenges no matter what. And for Peter Thiel, all of his problems are solved. He's a healthy, hot guy. I would bang him. Hot guy. No problems in the world. So what is the problem that he searches for? He searches to solve the problem of immortality. He wants to live forever. And he talks about mind, body, and spirit transforming into this sort of divine, mechanistic machine god. And it's all because he froze his head in 1999. I really am. I'm truly, guys. I know the show is just about this today. I really want to dig on this. I'm really struggling to understand how technology atheist billionaires are becoming fascinated with Christianity. Doesn't that confuse you guys? Doesn't it confuse you that, like, I'm as atheistic as they come. I'm an atheist Silicon Valley douchebag, but I know that Christianity is fucking stupid. I know that the Bible was written by a man. But somehow these guys have become so rich and bored. These tech billionaires have become so rich and bored that they're like, you know what? Why not? I'll read the Bible. Why not? Hey, you know what? Why not read the Bible? Because they are so Peter, let me cook on this. Peter Thiel is so evil and so atheistic that he knows it in the inside, and he's reading the Bible because he craves some sort of morality. He needs a moral code because he destroyed his own in his youth. Peter Thiel is the type of guy who will suppress his moral compass to become as rich and powerful as he is. But every night it eats away at him that he knows, and he looks in the mirror and he knows in his heart that he is the Antichrist. And he craves moral structure. And that is why these billionaires are so interested in Christianity. They've become full circle. They went so far away from religion that they found it again. Let's keep watching.
Your whole body. And then Orthodox Christianity, by the way, the critique Orthodox Christianity has of this is these things don't go far enough. Like that transhumanism is just changing your body, but you also need to transform your soul, and you need to transform your whole self. And so,
right, but
this
the
is
other
where,
wait. I generally agree with what I think is your belief.
This guy's a terrible
that
interviewer.
Religion
He like
should
interrupts.
be a friend to science and ideas of scientific progress. I think any idea of divine
Shave your
providence
head.
has to encompass the fact that we have
Please
progressed
shave your head,
and
bro.
achieved and done things that would have been unimaginable to our ancestors. But it still also seems like, yeah, the promise of Christianity in the end is you get the perfected body and the perfected soul through God's grace, and the person who tries to do it on their own.
I'm sorry. I'm so lost. This is one of the most pretentious conversations I've ever listened to. Have you guys had a conversation in your life before? Has it ever been something like this where you talk about how the woke AI will follow us to Mars, and then 5 minutes later, you're like, yes, but like the Christian ideal is that we will transcend and become God. I'm like, I thought you guys, are you talking about Donald Trump? Are you talking about AI? Or are you talking about the Bible? You can't, like, those things are different. And you guys somehow think that those things are the same. You guys think that AI, Christian orthodoxy, and transhumanism are all the same thing. And yes, I love Gutting Crazy. This show's all about being crazy. Yes, there are overlapping themes with superhuman AI, Christian orthodoxy, and transhumanism. I think those things do overlap. But the way that you guys are talking about it, you know what my problem with this interview is? The way these men talk to each other is as if we are all on like the same kind of like baseline level of knowledge and general agreement about things. You know what I mean? And we're not. We are not. Like going back to what I said earlier, Peter Thiel was saying like, yeah, you know, I mean, obviously we're all worried that the woke AI will follow us to Mars. I'm like, whoa. And then the interviewer's like, yeah, let's move. Yeah, of course. Like, what? What? He's like, obviously Mars is a political project. What? You know, obviously Mars is more than just a silly science project. Mars is actually a political project. Peter Thiel is so fucked in the head and so far gone that he goes, you know, obviously Mars is a political project and it's our only escape from socialism. What? Mars is a planet. Mars is not a political project. Mars is the fourth planet from the sun. Can we get our facts straight? Let's get our fucking facts straight. Mars is a red planet. It's 4 planets. Oh, it's the fourth planet from the sun, which we orbit. I don't know if, I feel like Peter Thiel may be a flat earther at this point. I feel like Peter Thiel is like so far gone that he probably believes that we live in a flat earth, that we live on a flat earth. I wouldn't be surprised if Peter Thiel was like, you know, the only way that we're going to find the ice wall and expose NASA for what it is, which is a Jewish psyop, is if we become immortal. The only way we're going to find the ice wall and beat NASA back into the hole that it crawled out of is if I become immortal. Let's keep watching. I mean, I just love it. There's just so much to this interview.
With a bunch of machines is likely to end up as a dystopian character.
Well, it's let's articulate this.
And you can have a heretical form of Christianity, right? That says something else.
I don't know. I think the word nature does not occur once in the Old Testament.
I don't care. What?
You know, if you
what does that mean?
And there is.
Can you pause it?
A word in
I'll go like, what does that mean? What does that mean? This interviewer is so bad. I would go, Peter Thiel goes, the woke AI will follow us to Mars. Wow. You know, I don't think the word nature occurs once in the Old Testament. What do you mean? What do you mean? He's like Kanye. Peter Thiel is the Kanye of Silicon Valley. Kanye says shit like this. Kanye, he is the Kanye of Silicon Valley. He thinks he's Jesus Christ. Peter Thiel thinks he's like Jesus Christ, like he's like this like ascendant figure. Like I would be surprised if Peter Thiel started doing rap albums. I wouldn't be surprised if Peter Thiel did his next interview with gold grills and a fucking gold chain. Like, and I also wouldn't be surprised if Peter Thiel was a Nazi. Nothing would surprise me at this point. What does that mean? What is, you know, I don't think the word nature occurs once in the Old Testament. Hey, what does that mean? What do you mean by that? What does that mean? I feel like I'm going insane listening to this interview. This feels like two different schizophrenic personalities inside of a homeless guy's head. Like one guy's like, the word nature doesn't occur once in the Old Testament. And the other guy's like, but like, don't you think Donald Trump's a threat to America? Like, can we stay on one topic? Can we like cover some ground? Are you going to cover, hey, Peter, are you going to cover any ground at all? Or are you just going to do like these insane phrases? I will give Peter Thiel this. He's very good at making sentences that have never been said before. The woke AI, that's the title of the episode. The woke AI will follow us to Mars. Let's keep watching.
A sense in which the way I understand, the Judeo-Christian inspiration is it is about transcending nature. It is about overcoming things. And the closest thing you can say to nature is that people are fallen, and that's the natural thing in a Christian sense, is that you're messed up. And
you're messed up.
That's true.
You are messed up.
There's some ways that with God's help, you are supposed to transcend that and overcome that. And,
right. But
and
the people,
if you just
present company accepted, most of the people working to build the hypothetical machine god don't think that they're cooperating with Yahweh, Jehovah, the Lord of hosts. They think that they're building immortality
Ross,
on their own,
yeah,
right?
We're jumping around a lot of things. So
Yes.
again,
Yes, you
critique
are.
I was saying is they're not ambitious enough.
Right.
From a Christian point of view, these people are not ambitious enough.
What?
Now,
What?
Then we get into
Oh
this
my
question,
God, dude.
Well,
Just-
but
they're not morally and spiritually ambitious enough.
and are they still physically ambitious enough? And are they even still
Stop.
really
Can you
transhumanists?
stop it?
And this is where
Physically ambitious?
man. The cryonics
Again with the
thing, that
cryonics.
seems like a retro thing from 1999.
Oh my
There isn't that much of
God.
that going on. So they're not transhumanists on a physical
Can you pause it,
level.
George? I'm
Maybe
sorry.
it's not-
Oh my God. How can you talk about Yahweh, AI transhumanism, and cryonics in the same breath? He's like I don't even know what to think anymore. And again, the reason I'm really focusing on this interview this week, guys, is because again, if this was just two dumbass guys in Austin, Texas, smoking DMT and talking about cryonics, I would have no problem with that, okay? Because guess what? Those guys are going to die under a bridge and not really impact the world. We're talking about Peter motherfucking Thiel. And who's this guy? What's his name? Ross. Ross do that. Ross did do that. Ross do be doing that. So we're talking about Peter again. Like, one of the richest men in the world is trying to combine cryonics, AI, superintelligence, defense weapons contracting, the idea of the West as this ascendant empire that will save us from the evil, poor, dirty brown people. That's what it is. And also cryonics. I guess Peter Thiel lives in this imaginary world where like it's the white savior. It's actually very simple. This is the white savior complex. That's actually what this is. You want to know what Christianity, you want to know what Christian morals, cryonics, AI superintelligence, the West, you want to know what all that stuff has in common? It's the white savior complex in its various eras. Okay? That's the reason that technology billionaires are so in love with Rome is because Rome to them is when white people ran shit. The technology billionaires, they love the idea of Rome because Rome, there was no China, or there probably was, but like not in the sense that there's a China today. Because right now, China is the ascendant superpower that will likely disrupt America. And it's hard for white people to accept. It's hard for these, not me, I don't give a shit. I'm learning Mandarin. It's hard for like racist white billionaires to accept that maybe another country could be the ascendant empire and rule shit for a little bit. They think that the West, like their dick is so hard for the West that they have conversation that Peter Thiel, his dick is so hard for this like ascendant libertarian AI Western future that he'll sit down with a balding guy from the New York Times just to like have a conversation, just to talk. That's how insane, it's a level of insanity that I really have never witnessed before. This is one of the most insane interviews I've ever listened to. This is like, I could not write something this insane. You can't write this. He taught yeah, let's keep going. I know this is a long one, but I love it. I love it.
It's not about cryonics. Maybe it's about uploading, which, okay, well, it's not quite. I'd rather have my body. I don't want just a computer program that simulates me. So that
I'd rather have your body too.
Seemed like a step down
I want
from
your body.
cryonics. But then even that's, it's part of the conversation, and this is where it gets very hard to score. And I don't want to say they're all making it up and it's all fake, but I don't think
you think some of it's fake.
I don't think it's fake. Implies people are lying, but it's I want to say it's not the center of gravity.
Shut the
And
fuck
so
up.
There is
Shut the fuck
there's a
up.
cornucopian language.
Oh my God, I hate
there's an optimistic language.
cornucopia.
A conversation I had with Elon a
Concretize.
few weeks ago about this was he said we're going to have 1 billion humanoid robots in the U.S. in 10 years. And
can you pause it?
If that's true.
You know what else Elon said? He also said he'd cut the deficit by $2 trillion. And now he's going to get deported to South Africa. And that's your friend. How about you concretize my dick in your mouth? All right, let's keep going.
You don't need to worry about the budget deficits because we're going to have so much growth. The growth will take care of this. And then he's still worried about the budget deficits. And then this doesn't prove that he doesn't believe in the 1 billion robots, but it suggests that, maybe he hasn't thought it through, or that he doesn't think it's going to be as transformative economically,
Right.
or that there are big error bars around it. But yeah, there's some way in which these things are not quite thought through. If I had to give a critique of Silicon Valley,
Please.
it's always bad at what the meaning of tech is. And the conversations, they tend to go into this microscopic thing where it's like, what are the IQ, ELO scores of the AI? And, exactly how do you define AGI? And we get into all these endless technical debates. And there are a lot of questions that are an intermediate level of meaning that seemed to me to be very important, which is like, what does it mean for the budget deficit? What does it mean for the economy? What does it mean for geopolitics? You know, one of the conversations, you know, we had a few, you know, recently was, you and I had was, you know, does it change the calculus for China invading Taiwan?
Did I call it?
We have an
Can you
accelerating.
Did I call it? Did I knew he would mention China. I fucking knew he would mention China. I knew it. How did I know this was going to come back to China? I didn't watch this part, by the way. I did not watch this part. I'm not cheating. I knew. I knew that this was going to come back to China and the ego of a white man cannot, the white man's ego cannot handle a smart Chinese guy. Guess what? I'm a Chinese supremacist. And I'm going to say that with my fucking chest. I'm a Chinese supremacist. China is the smartest ascendant race of people, and every other race should be I'm kidding. I'm kidding about that. But no, truly, like like the only way to achieve what is going on in this interview is ketamine dependency. Ketamine dependency. This is a PSA against ketamine addiction. This is you know that old PSA with weed where it's like the two chicks on the couch, and then the one chick is like looking into the camera and she's like, "Yeah, that's my friend Sarah. She and I used to hang out all the time with me. Then she started smoking weed." And she's just like, you know, fucking depressed into the couch. She's like flat, you know? They like cut to her and she's like a pancake on the couch. And it's like, that was supposed to like scare you into not smoking weed. There's an equivalent commercial for this, which is, yeah, you know, my friend Peter, he used to be a normal guy. He was a really smart guy. Went to Stanford, went to an Ivy League or something, you know? He's a really smart guy, really funny, outgoing. Then he started doing ketamine and froze his head. Yeah, you know, my friend Peter Thiel, he used to be a great, smart, sociable guy, and then he started doing ketamine, and he's not the same, you know? And then it cuts to him, and he's like, cryonics and Christianity will save us from the Arabs. Huh? Cryonics? This interviewer is just as insane, by the way. The interviewer is almost crazier than Peter. The interviewer is like, dude, you work for the New York Times. How are you like just as insane as this like ketamine billionaire? He's like, how can cryonics and AI save the West from the savages in China? This interview like is almost not real. This interview almost feels like it's a fever. This interview is like a fever dream. Like nothing makes sense in this it feels like we're watching a dream. Like I'm watching a dream, but it's not a dream. It is real. It is real. This guy believes this. He's a real guy in the world. I don't know. I guess it has to be said now because people are so crazy. Peter Thiel is a real guy in the real world who walks around and does shit and affects people. And he thinks that like Christian cryonics, cryogenic Christianity is going to ascend us. It's like an ascendant. Let's keep going.
Revolution, the military, is China falling behind, and will this, and maybe on the optimistic side, it deters China because they've effectively lost, and on the pessimistic side, it accelerates them because they know it's now or never. If they don't grab Taiwan now, they will fall behind. And either way, this is a pretty important thing. It's not thought through. We don't think about geopolitics. We don't think about
the interviewer's he's just nodding along. Like Peter Thiel's like going on he's having a psychotic break. He's like, China doesn't grab Taiwan in the next 10 years. The our Christian cryogenic ascendant AI Western white Zionist empire will win. And he's like, yes, of course. Like he's nodding along, like the audience is also nodding along because the interviewer is the audience. He's nodding along as if the audience is also like, yes. We all know China's going to take Taiwan, or the Christian cryogenic empire is going to take. Go forward, continue. It's like Peter Thiel's like, 2 + 2 is 5, obviously. So 2 + 2 is 5, and what that means is that China's gonna colonize us. And 4 + 4 is 9. And the interview's like, of course, yeah, duh. Let's keep going. We'll wrap it up soon. This is a long one.
What it means for the macro economy, and those are the kinds of questions I'd want us to push more.
There's also a very macroscopic question that you're interested in that, we'll pull on the religion thread a little bit here. You have been giving talks recently about the concept of the Antichrist, which is a Christian concept, an apocalyptic concept. What does that mean to you? What is the Antichrist?
How much time do we have?
We've got as much time as you have to talk about the Antichrist.
All right. Well, I could talk about it
But
for
we're
a long
near,
time. I think I think there's always a question. How do we articulate some of these existential risks, some of the challenges we have, and they're all framed in this sort of runaway dystopian science text. There's a risk of nuclear war. There's a risk of environmental disaster, maybe something specific like climate change, although there are lots of other ones we could come up with. There's a risk of, bioweapons. You have all the different sci-fi scenarios. Obviously, there are certain types of risks with AI. But I always think that if we're going to have this frame of talking about existential risks, perhaps we should also talk about the risk of another type of a bad singularity, which I would describe as the one world totalitarian state. Because I would say the political solution, the default political solution people have for all these existential risks is one world governance. What do you do about nuclear weapons? We have a United Nations with real teeth that controls them, and they're controlled by an international political order. And then something like this, is also what do we do about AI? And we need global compute governance. We need a one world government to control all the computers, log every single keystroke to make sure people don't program a dangerous AI.
We have that. It's called Palo Alto.
Going
Palo
from,
Alto is the one world
frying
government
pan into the fire. And so the atheist philosophical framing is one world or none. That was a short film that was put out by the Federation of American Scientists in the late 40s. Starts with a nuclear bomb blowing up the world, and obviously you need a one world government to stop it. One world or none. And the Christian framing, which I
Why
in
are you
some ways
talking
is the
about
same question, is Antichrist or Armageddon. You have the one world state of the Antichrist.
What are you
we're sleepwalking towards Armageddon.
What are you talking about?
One world or none, Antichrist or Armageddon, on one level are the same question. Now, I have a lot of thoughts on this topic, but
clearly you do.
One question is, and this was a plot hole in all these Antichrist books people wrote. How does the Antichrist take over the world? He gives these demonic, hypnotic speeches.
Sounds like what you're doing.
Just fall for it. And so it's this plot hole. It's this daemonium.
It's implausible.
It's a very implausible plot hole.
Right.
But I think we have an answer to this plot hole. The way the Antichrist would take over the world is you talk
doing
about
an interview with the New York
Armageddon
Times.
nonstop. You talk about existential risk nonstop.
That's what you're doing.
And this is what you need to regulate. It's the opposite of the picture of Baconian science from the 17th, 18th century.
Okay, Baconian? This guy loves making new... You know what the real Antichrist would do? He'd make new words that no one cares about. Let's really do a catalog. Concretize. He said, how do you concretize that? He said Baconian. He said a bunch of other ridiculous words that I can't remember. We will wrap soon. So let's keep going. We're almost at the end here.
Where, you know, the Antichrist is like some evil tech genius, evil scientist who invents this machine to take over the world. People are way too scared for that.
Sounds like something that the
In our
Antichrist
world,
would say.
The thing that has political resonance is the opposite. It is the thing that has political resonance is we need to stop science. We need to just say stop to this. And this
No
is
one's
where,
saying that.
Yeah, I don't know. In the 17th century,
No one is saying
I
that.
can imagine a Dr. Strangelove, Edward Teller type person taking over the world. In our world, it's far more likely to be Greta Thunberg.
Shut
Okay,
the
I want to suggest a middle
Oh
ground.
my, okay,
between
pause
those
it. All
two
right, well,
options.
we're done soon, but okay. So the guy asks, he goes, what, by the way, an incredibly insane interview question. What is your view on the Antichrist? Peter Thiel is a gay atheist. Is he not? Am I crazy? Is Peter Thiel not an atheist billionaire? Why are you asking an atheist billionaire libertarian about the Antichrist? This is not the Pope. I don't like this obsession that billionaires have with religion. I don't like it. I think it's bad, and I think it's dangerous. Now, Peter Thiel's answer to that question, what's your view on the Antichrist? He goes, now, what's your view on the Antichrist? Peter Thiel goes, now everyone thinks that the Antichrist is going to be an evil technology billionaire, which I happen to be, but it is not that. By the way, I happen to be a technology billionaire. Everyone thinks that the Antichrist will be a technology billionaire. Not true. I also coincidentally happen to control Palantir, which is basically the Antichrist in an AI form. But don't pay attention to that. Don't pay attention to that. Who's much more likely to be the Antichrist? A 19-year-old environmental activist by the name of Greta Thunberg. Peter Thiel, let me pull everyone's head out of the toilet for a sec and wake them up and remember, let me just repeat what we just listened to. Peter Thiel called Greta Thunberg the Antichrist. Peter Thiel, founder of Palantir, called an environmental activist child the Antichrist. And the interviewer goes, well, maybe there's a middle ground. You're interviewing the Antichrist, you fucking dumbass. You are sitting down with the Antichrist, who just called Greta Thunberg you know who's the real Antichrist? The failing New York Times. That's my conclusion today. The failing New York Times is the real Antichrist. You guys let Donald Trump get elected. That makes you the Antichrist. Let's go to the very end and we'll wrap. I just want to make sure we don't miss anything. This is a long-ass interview.
It used to be that the reasonable
skip forward,
of the
like,
Antichrist was a
let's
Antichrist.
skip
And
forward.
Technologies of surveillance.
Right there. Let's go right there.
Technologies of warfare and so on, right? And it just seems to me that when you tell me a story about the Antichrist coming to power and using the fear of technological change to sort of impose order on the world, I feel like that Antichrist would maybe be using the tools that you were building, right? Like, wouldn't the Antichrist be like, great, we're not going to have any more technological progress, but I really like what Palantir has done so far, right?
Yeah,
I mean, isn't that a concern? Wouldn't that be the irony of history would be that the man publicly worrying about the Antichrist accidentally hastens his or her arrival?
Finally, a real question. Finally.
There are all these different scenarios. I obviously don't think that that's what I'm doing.
I mean, to be clear, I don't think that's what you're doing either. I'm just
that is what he's
interested in
doing.
how you get to a world willing to submit to permanent authoritarian rule.
We already live. Oh my God.
But again, there are these different gradations of this we can describe.
That's a new one too. Gradations.
Is this so preposterous, what I've just told you, as a broad account of the stagnation that the entire world has submitted for 50 years to peace and safetyism. This is 1 Thessalonians 5:3. The slogan of the Antichrist is peace and safety, and we've submitted to, the FDA regulates not just drugs in
What
the U.S.,
the
but
fuck
de facto in the whole world.
oh my
the rest of the
God.
world defers to the FDA.
I'm gonna put a bullet in
Nuclear
my
Regulatory Commission.
Okay.
Effectively regulates
Pause it.
nuclear power plants.
I'm done with this guy. He goes, now you run a company called Palantir. Wouldn't the Antichrist try to distract people from Palantir? Wouldn't the Antichrist be doing exactly what you're doing so that Palantir can ascend and create an authoritarian rule that brings the end of the world? And Peter Thiel goes, well, it's actually the FDA. The real problem, what you're saying, look, he goes, yeah, I get what you're saying. What I'm doing, obviously, I don't think with Palantir is wrong. By the way, they're contracting with the IDF that kills kids, but that's not wrong. What's really wrong is that the Nuclear Regulatory Association he goes, look, what I'm doing with Palantir and bombing and contracting with the IDF to bomb kids, that's not the Antichrist. What's the real Antichrist? It's that this red tape, the FDA's red tape is crazy. Peter Thiel went on this podcast. Peter Thiel went on this podcast so he could complain that the FDA won't allow him to make a head freezing business. He's like, that's what he's not saying is he's going, why can't I make a business where we freeze heads? And then the interviewer is like, yeah, but like, what have you? This whole interview is two guys that railed ketamine together and probably sucked each other's dicks, which I support. And then they went into the interview room, they railed a bunch of ketamine, and Peter Thiel goes, I froze my head in 1999, and then the FDA told me I can't do that to other people. And he goes, but what are your views on the Antichrist? And then Peter goes, well, that's an interesting one, and I actually think it's Greta Thunberg. And everyone in the audience, we're all poor and stupid. So you guys are saying all that stuff, and we're poor and stupid? You get to have $1 billion. Why do you get $1 billion? And we're all stupid and poor because we didn't want to freeze our head in the 90s? That's not fair. And you know what? The real Antichrist has already arrived. And you want to know what his name is? Sean Riley. I'm the real Antichrist. You are listening to Satan's show. We did an extra long one for you guys because guess what? I got some cash coming in. We're switching it up. I hope you enjoyed that. We didn't have... Give it up for George, everybody. Powering through a long episode. If you are still listening, I appreciate we had a listener right into the show. We've never had that before. We had someone right into the show. So please write into the show. Join our Facebook group. Review the show on Spotify. Any one of these things can help grow the show. Please DM Peter Thiel. No, don't do that. Don't engage with that man. As a disclaimer, everything on the show is a joke. I don't condone violence or endorse violence of any kind. Wink. No, I really don't. I don't endorse violence. And like the show on YouTube. Tell your friends about the show. Send it to your... what I want you to do, fuck all that other shit I just said. Take the show, get the link to YouTube, send the show to your most autistic friend. That's all I want you to do, okay? Because the show will... that's how the show will grow the fastest, is if you send it to your most autistic friend. So, that's the show. Have a great week. The Big Beautiful Bill Act is in full effect. And so make sure you get your health care before it's gone. It's going away fast. What other news is there? Some guy in Idaho shot some firefighters. I don't really care. If what happens in Idaho stays in Idaho, some guy like ambushed fire. They try to make this Idaho shooting a national news. Did you see that, George? It's like an Idaho shooting, and they try to make it a news. And like, no one cares about Idaho. I'm sorry. It's sad. It's sad. I'm not gonna look. The deaths are sad, but like, 2 firefighters dying in Idaho. I mean, like, come on. We're too busy. We're talking about the I don't care about Idaho. Greta Thunberg is the Antichrist. That's our show. I love you. Have a good night.